Welcome to Just Keep Walking. This is a podcast focused on the Walking Dead universe. Today we're talking about episodes 1 and 2 of The Ones Who Live, the Rick and Michonne spin-off, and we're excited to be here.
Yeah.
My name's Ben, joined by...
Isaac, hello.
Yeah, and obviously spoilers, so if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes yet, just give them a watch first and then come back and have a listen. But if you do have any thoughts after watching them, make sure you get in touch. turnsounds@gmail.com. Best place to flick us an email, or on Instagram, Just Keep Walking Podcast is also a good way to get in touch.
I like to think that among our listeners is someone who's seen that this podcast has been uploaded and they go, great, sit down, and then they get the spoiler warning and go watch it and they go, wait a minute, I haven't watched it yet.
Hey.
Yeah.
I have come across a few movie review podcasts recently that are like just for people who haven't seen the movie and are trying to get an idea of whether they should watch it. So I don't know.
Should people watch this show, Ben?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, if you're a Walking Dead fan, not if you're just coming out of the blue. But yeah.
Yeah.
So far.
Interesting thing about this show right off the bat then is how you don't really need to have seen the other show. Not really.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even really thought about it, to be honest. Like what stands out to you in that sense?
Well, I mean, so Rick has this whole thing about like, I've been trying to get back and everything. And there is a bit of a question there. Oh, what have you been trying to get back to and everything? But I feel like without doing a whole recap, which I think I mentioned when we sat down for the first episode,
Sure.
I was fully expecting from day one, him waking up in the hospital, forging all of these friendships, and then the bridge blowing up and everything, and now cut to present day. But they didn't do any of that, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
So some references to his kids and stuff when he and Michonne meet. But other than that, really, it's just like, don't worry about all of that. Let's just focus on what's happening.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I mean, even like the actual show, when it started, it's just this guy waking up in a hospital and he apparently has to get to his family who you've never seen in the show before. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Episode 1 of Walking Dead did start with like his accident and everything first, hey? Like getting shot.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But still, I guess in the sense that you're still a little bit disoriented. And in that sense, I guess it's interesting that they didn't really bridge the gap too much between like they didn't show him waking up after being delivered in the helicopter. Because that was kind of what a lot of people were expecting, is that they're going to do him waking up in a hospital again. And it makes sense because that's exactly where he was left off. So, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the fact that they kind of skipped time and they seem to be filling in the details later throughout the series instead of giving it all up front?
My biggest fear was that it was going to lead to him being brainwashed in some sort of way. Like at first, he's really determined. He wants to break out and get back to Alexandria and everyone he loves. But then, like, slowly he gets more and more beat down after each attempt, and then he loses his hand, like, cuts off, like... There are so many like parallels to the show, like how Negan was going to force him to cut off Carl's hand.
Oh, for sure.
And all of that. And I think he says something like, this is how it happens, or something.
Yeah, like, the only way, or something like that. Yeah.
He didn't say this.
No, I think it's closer to what you said, but this is how.
Yeah, this is how. I think he just says that anyway. But I thought it was like some nightmare he was having, or like some fever dream, desperately escaping and cutting off his own hand or whatever. I really didn't take too many. I didn't take any notes. I took only mental notes for these ones. So
same.
I apologize for letting you down there.
No, same here. That's all good. Yeah, well, I mean, that, I don't know if we've talked about it before on here, but that's apparently a big thing in the comics is I think the governor actually cuts off Rick's hand quite early on. So they've given the modern day Aaron the kind of Rick look from the comics with the hand missing and the beard and everything like that.
Right.
So the fact that he lost his hand was something that people who are somewhat familiar with the comics have been expecting could have happened at any point throughout the series, and they've kind of teased it a few times. Like his hand's gotten injured or like infected at a few points. It's like, oh, he's gonna lose his hand. Yeah, so that was definitely, I was in the same boat in the sense that it was like, this could be a dream. And if it is, then it's like I've lost a lot of hope for the show already.
Yeah.
But the fact that they stuck with it and committed to it right at the start, I think it's a cool idea.
Yes and no. On the one hand, I was so disappointed. Like, you've gone through this whole grueling experience of cutting off your hand, and then he uses like a burning Walker corpse to like cauterize the wound and everything, and I'm like, you did all of that and it did nothing. You still got captured and everything.
Sure.
Yeah,
only really to me disappointing in the sense that it's like, come on, you're a smart guy. Like, if you're gonna cut off your hand, you want to be sure that like this is the perfect opportunity, not with guys a few meters away who are obviously going to catch you because you're like limping, you're losing blood, you can barely focus on where you're going. Yeah. But an effective way to pull you in at the start at least and change the dynamics a bit.
Yeah, it shows you that he's serious, you know, that he has resolve, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was worried that like attempt after attempt was going to leave him kind of feeling hopeless, and that, there really is no way to escape. And by the present day, when he's flying along in the helicopter and he's actually in charge, like he's actually flying a helicopter now.
Sure.
My biggest concern was that, he gets unmasked by Michonne, and like there's this moment where Michonne's like, I can't believe I found you. And he's like, who are you? Like, or some like, like ridiculous thing like that. And I'm so glad that that's not where we've gone.
Sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the most part, with both episodes, I'm happy with how they seem to be treating it, for the most part, as like fairly smart, for lack of better words. Like, especially things, I guess a few that stood out to me was the lady who is sick, her saying, tie her to the bed and don't sleep next to her. Just like very simple things that we've learned. I mean, it should be common sense in the zombie apocalypse, but sometimes, just a little reminder of those things. And then especially, Rick meeting Michonne just straight away thinking through the list of, okay, here's the things you've got to do. Pretend he had the katana. And don't call them walkers because that's what I call them. Like a few things like that. I was like, oh, okay. They're thinking through the details properly here.
Because there's another name that's emerged as well, like whalers, I think they call them.
Yeah. I mean, it gets kind of stupid after a while, just the fact that there's so many names anyway. But I mean, I don't mind whalers.
There have been worse ones, I think.
There was one that was just horrendous, but I can't remember what it was now.
Oh, yeah, you said it was like carrion or something?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, not great.
I do think it's fun, like, as far as different groups, I wouldn't think to call one a walker. I'd probably just say, like, dead people or something, or the infected maybe, or something.
Yeah.
So walker is pretty unique in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's dead people, which is just like a dead body that's lying there, and then the walkers are the dead bodies that have got up and started moving around. So it kind of makes sense. Enough, at least.
Daryl cracked that one in the final season, huh? The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Good one, Daryl. Write that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, how have you felt about like kind of where it's heading and the time they've put into episodes 1 and 2?
Yeah, no, pretty happy so far. I mean, probably 3 will be now the point where we start to find out, okay, well, what kind of show is this going to be? Where are they going? Because, I mean, it makes sense 1 and 2 really had to be the bridging catch-up episodes.
Yeah.
Which I'm very happy with how they've done those. I'm glad that it wasn't a whole, like, 4 or 5 episodes of Rick slowly working his way up the CRM and Michonne just wandering along looking for him. Which, it would have been understandable, but I'm really glad that they just kind of got it over with quickly and moving along at a good pace. Yeah, so, optimistic, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, because from back in the day when these were first announced as, like, movies or something, like a trilogy or whatever, we, I think, reasoned it out when it turned out that it was going to be a series. We were like, okay, great, you've got longer to spend on things that matter.
Sure.
You can do the whole thing that Walking Dead does well with the character building inside of the apocalypse world, which I've really come to appreciate, I think, through you. I think as a viewer on my own, I would have really been in it just for like the hack and slash and like the gory zombie deaths and all of that and survival. But yeah, you've opened my eyes up to like the focus is supposed to be on the living and not just cool zombie, things, which they lost their way a little bit like throughout the seasons and how can we do a cool zombie death?
Yeah.
But, for the most part, yeah, that's what this seems to be.
Oh, cool. Yeah, nice. I guess all that being said, there's definitely been a few just stupid moments. Probably the biggest one for me is the parting of the like, just think about it. Even within the logic of the show, it could still work. You can still draw the group into two separate directions, but they're not going to perfectly part with a line in the middle. There's going to be kind of a group that goes that way, kind of a group, and it'll be a bit messy, and then eventually you'll have a clear path in the middle. But like, come on, guys.
Absolutely. That whole exploding walker with jerry cans and everything attached to him. Like, I was trying to think to myself, like, what are you? So you were a human at one stage, and you just had all of these petrol cans attached to you.
Yeah.
Like, what were you?
I mean, like, I could understand a survivor who's like bringing fuel from wherever he's found it, and he's got to bring it back to his base where he's got a car or something like that. But he was wearing like a weird hat or something. It looked like a conductor or something. Like, I don't know.
That's check it. I thought it was like a fireman's hat or something.
Yeah. So that kind of made it a bit more weird. So, I mean, there's stuff like that. Thankfully, it's kind of small enough that you can overlook it, but definitely a few red flags of just like the silly kind of stuff that the show's been getting into in recent years.
I did like right before that happens when you see Michonne load up those little like exploding harpoons and stuff.
Sure.
How that was just like a neat little experience at the start, so that later when the helicopter gets shot down by them, you're like, oh yeah, these things from before. Like, yeah, they didn't just come out of nowhere when the helicopter came along. Yeah, and also you had this other, what's the dwarf's name? Was it like?
It starts with an N, I think.
Ned, maybe.
Or Nick, or it was something like that.
Okay. First
Nat.
Nat.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. First dwarf we've seen on the show.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I was a little taken aback by it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I actually thought his character was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like you're not what people would expect. Like, people write you off as, being maybe weak or small. And he talks about how he got bullied quite a lot. And so he becomes like this pyromaniac where he builds explosives and sets things on fire. And he's got like that Zippo lighter type thing that he's flicking open and shut all the time.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think it's just one of those character designs which on paper, sounds really cool. And then you just had to find the right casting to make it work. And his sassiness at the start, I couldn't really take him all that serious.
Right.
But yeah, grew to like him. And then later on, of course, spoilers ahead, him getting shot was shocking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely grew on me enough as a character. I guess the initial thing, kind of like you said, more so to do with the characterization, just like being so... I don't know, confident, and just the way he talked was like, oh, okay, like they're trying to do that type of character instead of it feeling like a real person. But that I didn't bother me too much after the first few minutes.
It's tricky as well when I've never met a person like that. Not like height wise or anything, but personality like that. I don't know if I've ever run into a person who just talks that way. So
I agree.
Doesn't really feel natural.
It was a bit like just a movie character.
Yeah.
The only thing with the choice of actor was just that, don't you feel like his voice sounds very similar to Michonne? That was something in the
Yeah.
trailers, at least. I literally couldn't tell if it was supposed to be him or Michonne talking at times. And if you close your eyes,
Hmm.
it's very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's just they've both got a very similar tone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had quite a high voice, but
But
after a
it
while,
never really got confusing because you could always see who was talking anyway.
yeah. I was a little confused by kind of what they were there for in the story. Like both that lady, which they didn't have to make her pregnant, because then
Yeah.
like she dies while she's pregnant, and that's like a whole added like.
I liked it for what it meant for Michonne, but go on.
Oh,
What were you
I
saying?
see. Okay. Yeah, okay, I get that now, actually. But her saying like know when to quit and everything and when to call it.
Yeah.
And then that's echoed by Nat as well when he dies, his final words about like know when to quit or something. I
Yeah.
was like, what is that trying to push? You know, like
Mm.
I would understand if she meets these characters on the road and they give her some life lesson, which even though they perish, she can take with her.
Sure.
But what is that life lesson? You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's more so, yeah, it felt like it was shedding light on something else when he said it at the end. Because at the start, it's obviously, it was kind of hold out hope as much as you can,
Yeah.
but know when to go back to your family and call it a day
Yeah.
because you can't just go chasing a hope forever. But yeah, then at the end, it was followed after he was asking about like, is this still the guy who you
Yeah.
knew? And it sort of felt a bit more ominous in the sense that like, yeah, you still want to get back with this guy, but like maybe if he's turned into someone else, then there's a point where you shouldn't chase that anymore. That's kind of how I was taking it. I
Right.
don't know.
I don't think that we'd believe that about Rick, though. I think we're just so hardwired to think that he's this, leader that we've liked throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
That if they do turn it around, that he's all for the CRM now, whatever, I'd be a poor choice, I think.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't feel like the audience will necessarily feel that way, but it could be an interesting thing from a show, and at least for an episode or so, just because Rick seems so carried away in his position and how he's got caught up with this community. Or at least he seems very ingrained in it to an extent. So it's a fair question to ask, like, has he maybe gone a bit too far with this?
Because you can see when he says straight away, like, no, we can't run away. They're going to come here. And she seems very confused about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's saying, like, yeah, get your story straight. You can't have this name. You have to change all of these things.
Yeah.
And at first, she's, there's a word I can't find. She's just not sure about the whole thing. But then as she does turn around and Rick raises his gun at her, she starts, like, smiling. Like, as, like, but I've still found you, like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like at least that it sets up some potential mixed feelings, that it's not just black and white. Oh, great, everything's worked out. I found this guy, and now we're going to escape, and it's all hunky dory. Like,
yeah,
there's a little bit of doubt there for where things could go, at least in the character's head. So,
quick thing before I forget about it, there was a thought in my head. It was more humorous than it was an actual fear.
Sure.
That so they're in this big embrace, they've hugged and everything, and the music was pretty amazing. I thought in that whole scene where, like, they're caught in an embrace. But then I wondered whether Nat would think that they were like fighting or whatever, like, struggling. So he'd come and like shoot Rick or something. Like, I got him. Like, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, big thumbs up for the score on that one. And it just really seems like they know when to raise the music up. Like,
yeah.
do we see Sam Ewing?
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely something I've been holding hope for, that it would at least be him coming back for it. Because for the other spin-offs, they've gone with new composers, which is fine. I think they've done an all right job, but it still feels a little bit different. So to have
Was
Sam.
Joseph Shirley one for?
Ooh.
I think Joseph Shirley might have done the Daryl Dixon. I could be so wrong, but he also...
Let me look this up.
Yeah, because he's currently doing a lot of the Star Wars stuff. Like, he did quite a lot of Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Daryl Dixon. But yeah, regardless, it really feels it's got the feel that I like about the original show.
Yeah, I mean, well, while you're Googling that, really just a tangent for a second.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
just watched the Mario Bros. Movie
Okay.
with my son. And like there's this scene towards the end where there's like this big battle or whatever through the streets that they're flying around.
Is this with the Starman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they hit before they hit it, it's just like there's chaos everywhere. And I'm looking at the level of the score, the musical score underneath the whole thing, and I'm like, why is this not above the sound effects? Like it
Right.
I was trying to listen out for it, and it seemed like it was a pretty good track. Like, you know, kind of epic, kind of like inspiring, and like there's a lot going on. But yeah, it just kind of stayed low the whole time, and the sound effects and the character dialogue and everything was just over the top of it.
Okay.
And it left me really wanting more. But then in scenes like this one, in Walking in Ones Who Live, exactly the opposite, where it's just like the visual doesn't need any explanation. You're basking in like they're reunited after so long. So let's really boost the volume on that and just let it wash over you. And I'm here for it.
Definitely. Yeah.
I was so wrong about Daryl Dixon.
Yeah, David Sardi.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, volume and like balance with the rest of the mix is one thing, but also just having the what's the word?
Discipline?
Yeah, and like the cohesion between all the different departments to know like when to make the music more intense. Like we'll make it intense for this moment because we know it's going to be at the front of the mix. And then we'll make it more subtle at this other point where the sound effects are going to take over. I'm pretty sure it was Jonathan Rindler who pointed out to me that at the start of episode 4, Star Wars, the music and the sound effects are really fighting each other with the of the Star Destroyer. And, then, and it's like they both want to be right at the front. And I mean, it works fine, but it's kind of interesting to think about. Yeah. But yeah, no, really loving the music, and it's pulling a lot of the themes from the main show, which I love, all that sort of stuff, tying in the long formed themes from over the years that have a lot of meaning to them. So I'm happy about that rather than just starting from scratch again, because what it does is it feels like more of a continuation of the original story and the original show instead of just an extra thing they're tacking on. So, happy about
that. Yeah, other than the characters that we know of Rick and Michonne and Jada. Or
Jadis.
Yeah. Oh, boyo. I didn't really think of it as like, a continuation of the main show other than like an offshoot or a spin-off or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could look at, because like Rick's the main character, or at least he was, until he left. So really, you've kind of got the story of all the other characters that you finish off in one branch, but then you kind of have to have Rick in the other branch of like, okay, how does his story end? And that really is kind of a continuation from the start, the way I see it at least.
Can I ask you? For the ending of Rick's story in this series, what does that look like for you to be able to just like put your hands, thread them behind your head and relax, lean back and go, like that was good. What does that picture look like for you?
Definitely, obviously going back to reunite with his kids. That's the main thing. Probably, I mean, I would prefer if they just ended the whole thing there, the whole franchise just stopped there. Like with Endgame, it's like you've got the perfect end point, just leave it. But knowing that they're probably not going to do that, I think at this stage I'd prefer for Rick and his family just to go off and live in a quiet, farmhouse or something like that, and just by themselves and stay away from everything else, because they're going to try and cross over all the other shows and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And I feel like I just want just a solid ending for those guys that's not going to get caught up in a bunch of other stuff.
That's more or less exactly where I'm at. The location of it all doesn't really matter for me.
Sure.
But, you know, obviously I didn't even know that he didn't know he had a son, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
He had a son, but
yeah.
So that's nuts for him to find that out, and I do like that somewhat tease of Michonne saying like, when we're leaving, I'll tell you what's going on. But exactly that. That's all I want from this show. I don't really care what happens in the middle, but, you know, by gosh, I want to see him and Judith running together.
For sure.
Maybe he gives Daryl one of those brothers.
Yeah.
You know, as he gives him a hug and all the rest. And just, like I say, even if that means all of the characters make their way to the Commonwealth and they all live there or whatever.
Yeah.
Fine. But yes, I think from the start we've had like a shifty feeling about Commonwealth and what they're all about, and we've seen now
CRM, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rather. And you know, we've seen now that they're dropping chlorine bombs on people.
Yeah. What the heck's up with that?
It's cruel and unusual is what it is. Once upon a time, while I was like doing some pool maintenance and whatever, it says like on the tin with like a big skull and crossbones and like respirator, like a mask required, gloves required, eye protection required, and everything like that. But even so, you peel off the lid of like the chlorine crystals and stuff like that, and if you I didn't accidentally, I wanted to see what it smelled like as a kid. I don't know.
Come on, man.
So it's like we swim in chlorine pools, so I was like, how bad could it really be? But truly, it like burnt my nostrils straight away, and I was just spent the next couple of like minutes just like trying to breathe it all back out. So bombs of that going around everywhere. I'm very glad actually that they made that distinction, that it was like, chlorine gas or whatever.
It's not just mustard gas or whatever.
Yeah.
People know the name of.
Yeah,
right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean that there's a lot of questions like that. Why would you do that? Why would you even waste the resources of the chlorine on just some random group that you're flying over? Lots of questions there. I mean, a few other questions, I guess, particularly to do with Jadis and like why they even came and picked up Rick, like sort of as a favor for her. What kind of relationship we had with them?
You remember what she said on the radio when?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember the order of it now. Do you remember like whether it was she promised she had an A, but she actually has a B, or was it the other way around?
No. So originally she said she had an A. And then when like a helicopter was coming to pick up, she said she lied and that it was only a B.
Right.
But then back when the bridge blew up, and she's like, no, it actually is an A. I swear to you, it's an A. So So now she's promised them a leader, which is Rick. And
that makes more sense.
Now they've picked him up.
Yeah, right.
How has she got an even worse haircut? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so her accent was phony the whole time, like in the Walking Dead show.
Yeah, because she was talking all weird, leading the scrap group people.
Yeah.
And then remember for like a few episodes, she just sort of was a normal person and like had her hair down and everything like that for probably 5 episodes, and then got taken away in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange. I mean, pretty much most people agree that like the Junkyard Group was not one of the better additions to the show. So to have a character like that being so prominent, just kind of reminds you and ties it all in with the worst things that the show's done. But
so she's met Rick inside the CRM, so Rick knows that she's there. And yet it didn't kind of cross his mind that, she'll recognize who Michonne is and know Michonne from before.
Yeah.
Which I do like the spanner in the works that it throws in. Like, you thought that you got away clean and now, Michonne's lied her way in here. And, here's this other character who could really cause you trouble now.
Sure.
But she's, like, stopped the tapes or whatever and erased certain things and...
I mean, hopefully we'll find out next episode, but, like, have Rick and Jadis even talked or known each other since the helicopter.
There's another flashback for 30 minutes. Where's Jadis been?
Yeah, oh, imagine that.
Mm.
And then we got Heath as well. Remember that guy? Who apparently, at least according to the fan theories and the law, that's semi-confirmed, is that he's been taken away with these guys. So.
Why?
Yeah, who knows? I think it was that like Jadis, when she was sort of at the end about to go with the helicopter, she had the RV that Heath was last seen in or something like that. So
that's obscure.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but at least that would be. At least then you could pretend it was all part of the plan, that this guy just disappeared and no one mentioned it. Yeah.
I would love a note from the producers on that one.
Mm.
Like, when this is all over, like, did you guys just forget about it? Or, like, was there a death scene, but it couldn't make the cut because you were over time for the...
Yeah. Or just, like, he wasn't a big enough character to make a deal out of it, so they just had to kind of treat it as, like, a real minor death, but they took it too far.
Because, like, if he does wander his way onto this show now, there's got to be some scene with like Rick or someone being like, "Who are you again?" It's like, I'm Heath, you left me, you loser, or like, something like that.
Yeah.
For just like, we all know, like, obviously we'll know, and diehard fans will know.
Yeah.
But for everyone else,
sure. Yeah, interesting. We'll see.
Mm.
How do you feel about the fact that it's just a random coincidence that Rick and Michonne bumped into each other?
That's a tricky one.
Mm.
That is a tricky one. I'm happy to let it slide just because I think similar to you, I wanted them to unite early on in the show and then like move on from there.
True.
And it would have sucked to have so many near miss, encounters where it's like Rick was here and then he left and then an hour later Michonne's there and like, certain things like that. So yes, it is a bit random, but also not in the sense that they've encountered a helicopter before and she wants revenge, and because she had a whole thing about look at my face and then cutting them up, and
which I wasn't 100% sure if that was just like a, I don't know, sadistic or like a revenge thing of like, oh, I want to see your eyes when you die, or if she was double checking that it's not Rick.
Oh yeah,
maybe a bit of both.
Well, she's got no reason to believe that he would be like with them at all.
Yeah, the weird thing was that they had those flashbacks as she was approaching the helicopter of earlier in the episode when all the people were saying like, oh, I want to be there when you find Rick or something. It was that kind of stuff. It wasn't really clear why they had those flashbacks there. I
think it was just that she had, the lady who died had been kind of spurring Michonne on, saying like, we'll be there when you find him and everything. And now because she died, that lady died due to the helicopter people.
Yeah.
It's like just remembering her and then that fueling Michonne with rage. And
that makes sense, actually. Yeah, I didn't put that together. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like I don't hate it. It's all right. And I guess I kind of am all right with that in the sense that it's like, just holding out hope that even if you can't do anything about it in this crazy, unpredictable world, sometimes you can just come across the right path and it'll just happen. But yeah, it was quite a stretch. I would probably prefer if like it wouldn't have been hard for her to trace the boots and the phone back to if the shipyard had some sort of tie to the three circles, or like there was some sort of map or an indication of where to go, and they were heading there and they saw helicopters were coming in and out of the spot and they ambushed a group to get revenge because of the gas, and also to look for Rick because she knew that he was somehow connected with this group at one point or another. Like, yeah, at least she could have had some indication that there was a connection there. Oh well.
Had a little chuckle when typical Michonne move where she like will take a walker and cut off the arms and the jaw.
Yeah.
And they use it to pull along the cart.
Clever.
Yeah. Good little tie in there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, stuff like that as well. It's like, it's just practical. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you set up this way of doing things, you might as well use it.
Little guy kept calling it a wagon, which threw me off a few times. So like, a wagon is massive, isn't it?
More of a cart.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Yeah, like a cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Any other major notes standing out? I feel like they definitely gave us a really solid amount in the first episode of like info about this group, and they answered the A's and the B question very clearly. And at least enough. Like, yeah, there's still the stuff with Jadis and why did they actually spend the resources to come and pick up this random guy? Like, there's a lot of questions around that, but most of the outstanding questions that we've got, they kind of respected the audience enough to give him that and not string him on for too long.
Yeah. It also begs questions on how high up she is.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird that we've seen the general or the captain or whoever his name is, who was sitting like with Rick looking over the lake and everything. They had that whole conversation.
Yeah, General Beale, which I only remember that because there's a character with the same name in the movie I've been working on.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Beale.
I really liked that conversation, actually, where there's just something so powerful when there's what was that guy's name that was sort of like mentoring Rick and was really trying to get him to go along with the whole thing.
Oberforth?
Yeah, something like Okaforth, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
You got it way closer than I ever
I don't know. I think you might be right. I don't know.
Whatever his name was.
Okafor. Yeah, that sounds right.
Something like that. So General Beale, Captain Beale, looks at Rick and he's like, I'm just going to ask you. I'm just going to look at your eyes when I ask you this, Is he up to something? And straight away, like, Rick's like, gulp. Like,
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the answer there should have just been like, I don't know. Like, how could I know if he's up to anything? Like, by saying nope, that's very definitive. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. How the hell should I know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the acting from both of them, especially in that scene. That it wasn't like really obvious of, no, he's not like, or like trying to, make it really obvious to the audience. It kind of, we can read it any number of ways, and we're not sure how Beale is reading it, and whether he knows there's more going on or if he believes it, because he doesn't give much away with the acting either. So it's kind of, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I've always I think we spoke about this for the Dead City show as well, where like they, again, all these character names, the sheriff, marshal, or whoever comes in with like, have you seen this man? Like holding up a poster of Negan. And the first response is just, nope, never seen him. Like, at least pretend to like give some kind maybe. No, actually. Like, yeah, is Oakenford up to something? Maybe. Like, I don't know. Like,
just sit in silence, think about it for 10 seconds.
But he's looking at your eyes.
Yeah.
So, the windows to the soul.
Well, it's not, but that's the thing where you don't even necessarily know the truth straight away to say, oh, I'm going to tell this guy the truth or I'm going to lie. Because I've never even thought about this before.
Yeah.
Like, is he up to something? I don't know. Gee, is he? Like, let me think about, has he done anything suspicious lately? Like, you got to take time to think
exactly.
about that.
Like, how high up do you think I am that he's going to, like, tell me everything that he's up to? Like, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Michonne episode was pretty straightforward time-wise. I think they maybe did a little bit too much of the back and forth with the time in the first episode.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Not like super obnoxious, but just, yeah. We're already in this whole new environment. Don't make it more confusing by going back and forth and then repeating scenes and doing all that sort of stuff.
I did have one other note about the actual traveling group that we saw.
Yeah.
I liked the transition between, like, you didn't know that they were sitting in, like, a caravan or a trailer or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that they have actually been on the move this whole time.
Mm.
But you're, like, going along at, like, a barely above walking pace. You're going to burn so much fuel going at that speed.
Were they actually driving or were they being towed by horses? I can't remember.
I thought the cars were all driving, but then...
Yeah, you're probably right.
If they were, then I did miss it. If they were being towed by horses.
I don't know. But I mean, surely it would be bumping around more than that as well if you're going slow. I would have thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all nitpicky stuff.
It really is. But, like, yeah, as far as resources and everything, like...
Yeah.
Also, if you're traveling, don't you want to get there quickly wherever it is you're going? Like...
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It reminded me a bit of in the new Lord of the Rings show how the hobbits all just travel and they just keep moving. And if someone drops behind, it's like, oh, well, see ya.
Yeah.
Gotta keep moving.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense that they would go slow if there's some people on foot or horseback. Like, you can't be driving at 60 kilometers an hour the whole way. Yeah. So, yeah, overall, happy.
Got hope.
So far.
Yeah. I'm interested to see, obviously what's going on.
Sure.
Do we know? See, Liam, currently our other co-host, is like on set on the Daryl and Carol show.
Yeah.
So
Mexico.
Yep. Sipping on...
What are they drinking?
Mojitos.
Like cactus juice.
Oh, yeah. Probably both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
We got to ask him if he's had cactus juice.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll let you know as soon as he's back. Yeah. So hopefully Liam will be back soon. We're not sure exactly when he's getting back.
I'm sorry, where I was going with that was like, I'm not sure if we're going to be doing these in 2 episode chunks and if he'll be back in time for the next one.
I'd say yes for the next one because I'm actually going to be away next week. So yeah, let's do another 2 episodes time, and then maybe we can do the last 2 an episode each if it all works out time wise.
I'll be more diligent with my note taking as well, so we'll get some.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Same here.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely keen to hear any listener thoughts as well. Yeah, definitely turnsounds@gmail.com again, and Just Keep Walking podcast on Instagram. Keen to hear any thoughts other people have too. It's always fun chatting, having a bit of back and forth.
I actually do have one final question. I don't know if you'd know this. I tried to look out in the opening credits of this episode, but do you know whether or not, like, as far as the showrunners and everything are concerned, does this have anything different that the other spin-off shows didn't? Is there anybody new on board? I think I saw Andrew Lincoln's like producing this. Yeah,
and Denai, who's Michonne.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're both involved in producing it, and I think Michonne, or Denai Guerrera. Sorry, I just knocked the mic there.
Right.
I think it might have been this episode, or maybe another one that she's written as well. So yeah, definitely. It makes sense to the extent that they know the characters better than probably any other writing team that's going to come in, because they've been with it for so long. But yeah, I guess we'll just see, because sometimes actors obviously haven't studied the craft of writing in the same way they have acting, so it doesn't always translate. But it'd be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I'm just only asking because, like, there's been speculation in the past on different episodes, like, with directors and, like, I don't know how much Angela Kang, like, oversaw.
I don't think she's involved in this at all. Because originally she was going to take the Daryl and Carol show, but then that all got completely changed. Yeah, so I don't think she's involved in the universe at all at the moment.
Not to, like, cast any aspersions or whatever. I don't even know if that's the right word. But, are we saying that that's potentially a good thing that she's...
I quite liked her work, at least as much as Scott Gimple, who is show running this one. Because, I mean, his first few seasons were really solid, and I would say the same for Angela Kang. And probably both of them in an equal sense just went downhill when they got to their 3rd or 4th season. So... yeah, I think there's yeah, there's definitely some things that you can see. Are definitely, there's things that have been known now, infamous as like Gimple talk and the overly philosophical speeches in every episode and that sort of stuff. So,
Right.
you can see a bit of that here and there, particularly in the first episode. But and same with like the time jumping around, just overcomplicating things sometimes. But that's all
Yeah.
relatively nitpicky.
Yeah.
I guess one other thing that stood out there, and not necessarily to blame him, it could have been someone else, but there's just in this show particularly, but also just The Walking Dead in general, there's a lot of very crazy, elaborate backstories. And this guy, now
Yes.
I've forgotten his name again.
Nat.
Nat, yeah. Yeah, his stepdad, his name was
Yeah.
Danger, and he's got this. It feels like the 20th time someone said, when I was a kid, and they've gone this
Yeah.
insane backstory, and now Rick is like, his dad burnt down the family farm, and there's like this whole big thing there, which is not
Yeah.
completely unrealistic, if it happens here or there, but like, is there anyone normal in this world who's just had like a normal childhood without this insane backstory with multiple layers? I think Okaforth had a whole
Yeah.
story as well. It's like, come on, guys. Like, not everyone needs to have a whole elaborate backstory like that. But
I don't even. Yeah. Now that you mention it, I don't think if I was ever on the road, I could bring up a single story about something crazy from my childhood or back in the day.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, small crazy stories, but not like major things, and especially
No.
cartoony stuff like his stepdad's name was Danger.
Well, he kind of
Or he
called.
called himself Danger.
Yeah, like he called that out mid thing. Like, who the heck calls themselves Danger? Like,
Yeah,
So,
sure. Yeah.
but cool to see it written on the lighter as well.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. See if I'll give it a rewatch, and there might be some stuff it was setting up, but yeah, it's only, there's nothing wrong with any particular instance, just when it's like, oh, come on, we're doing this again. Yeah. All nitpicky.
How do you think those characters would feel knowing that they're on a show called The Ones Who Live?
Yeah. There you go.
You get one episode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The two who live.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Well, yeah. Optimistic about the future. Looking forward to it. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Of course, and you.
Thanks for everyone listening as well. And yeah, we'll catch you in 2 weeks. And what do? Just keep walking. There we go.
Yeah,
That's
we
how we
go.
sign off. Cool.
Nice. Just keep wailing.